Hello everybody. Today you're going to be having a go at a reading comprehension, and you'll be able to find that on Purple Mash. Now, one of the skills that I want you to try and use today is P. Okay, so I want you to P all over your work, and I know we find that absolutely hilarious. But it's also a really good skill to use. So let's have a little look about what P is in a bit more detail. So, can anybody remember what the letters P-E-E stand for? So the P stands for making a point, the point. So first of all, when you're answering a question, you have to make your point. So it might be that you've been asked to comment on a character's feelings, so you make your point about how you think they are feeling. You then need to find evidence, that's the first E, from the text to back up your point. Then you need to explain. And to explain, you have to say how the evidence that you have found proves the point that you made at the beginning. So let's have a little look at that in more detail. We're going to have a look at how we can use it in an example. So we've got a little bit here from The Wizard of Oz, so an extract. She was awakened by a shock so sudden and severe that if Dorothy had not been lying on the sofa bed, she might have been hurt. As it was, the jar made her catch her breath and wonder what had happened. And Toto put his cold little nose into her face and whined dismally. Dorothy sat up and noticed that the house was not moving, nor was it dark, for the bright sunshine came in at the window, flooding the little room. She sprang from her bed with Toto at her heels, ran and opened the door. The little girl gave a cry of amazement and looked about her, her eyes growing bigger and bigger at the wonderful sight she saw. So the question here would be, how did Dorothy feel when she opened the door? So remember, the first thing we need to do is we need to make our point. So how do we think she was feeling? Let's have a little look. So the first thing you need to do is you scan back through your text and you look for the clues that tell us how she was feeling. And here can you see in this extract, the last little sentence has been highlighted. The little girl gave a cry of amazement and looked about her, her eyes growing bigger and bigger at the wonderful sight she saw. And even cry of amazement and growing bigger and bigger have been further highlighted in there. So we've got a little bit of information there, tells us how she's feeling. So the point that you would make from that is it seems that Dorothy is amazed as she opens the door and is eager to explore. That's what the clues are suggesting. So the next thing we do is we have to give our evidence as taken from the text. So when you're doing this, you can provide a quotation. So a quotation is taking a piece of text directly out and using that in your answer. Here is the evidence for that question. We know this because the text tells us that the little girl gave a cry of amazement and looked about her, her eyes growing bigger and bigger at the wonderful sight she saw. So that was information, the evidence that we use to make our point. So we're putting that into our answer. Now, when you're quoting from a text, remember to use quotation marks. So that's your inverted commas around the words that you've directly lifted from the text. Make sure you quote accurately and try not to quote too much. You only just want those very specific pieces of information and evidence that help you prove your point. So we've done our point, we've given our evidence, and now we're going to explain how that evidence helps with the answer. So here's an explanation for that. Dorothy cried in amazement, which indicates that she thought the sights she saw were wonderful. Also, as her eyes grew bigger and bigger, gives the impression that she was astounded by what she saw and couldn't believe her eyes. So when we're explaining it, can you see that we're also then saying why that quote gives us that impression? So it says below here, look, Remember that certain words and phrases are helpful when you're explaining an idea in some detail. The following list shows some of these phrases. This implies, this suggests, which gives the impression that, possibly, perhaps, indicates, shows, obviously. All of those words are quite good because they're helping you to say how that evidence gives you, the reader, that impression. So you're making those links. So when that's all put together, we've got our point, we've got our evidence, and we've got our explanation. So if you pop over now to Purple Mash, the task has been set for you for today and there is a reading comprehension to complete. If you could try and use your point, evidence and explanation, then that would be absolutely fantastic. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at our inference reading skills, and you'll be able to put that into your work as well as your point, evidence and explanation. Good luck everybody. Speak to you tomorrow.